The topic is Robotic Process Automation Plus. Quick introduction, myself Nishant Goel. I have worked in this particular area for last almost a decade, setting up the complete automation center of excellence on the RPA front with Accenture, then with Emphasis. And very recently, I've started my own venture called Bot Mantra. Now, as part of this whole venture, we are primarily dealing with business process automation technologies. And that's a little bit brief background about myself, and we can interact post this session. Now, before I really move on, where exactly we talk about RPA? Whenever we talk about RPA, it's primarily on the business process. And that's how the industry got really evolved. So if you look at the business process operation, there are 4 waves. We started with the process reengineering because that's where we need to structure the various processes, re-engineer those processes, make it more standardized. So we go for standardization, optimization of those processes. Then comes the next wave of resource optimization, outsourcing, offshoring, pyramid refresh. All those parameters we applied, and finally we gained some benefit out of it. And that's when you see India became a larger, very big hub of business process operations, knowledge process operations. But then the third wave started almost a decade ago, called automation. And in this particular wave, we were targeting primarily on the rule-based automation. And that's where technologies like, we started with macros, simple Excel macros. And it got extended to robotic process automation. Lots of digitization was happening as part of this automation. But it's purely rule-based. And then comes the next wave of intelligent automation. And that's where Mr. Philip will come into picture and see that how we can really crack some of these use cases very clearly. And I'll give you a couple of examples so that you can relate with the use cases, what he talked about at a very high level and how it can solve the word problem. But there is a problem on the ground with the organization and how we can solve this particular problem. I'll give you a couple of such use cases. So that's where the intelligent automation wave is really coming into picture. Now, before we look at the various things, let's understand what exactly is this whole business process automation technology framework is all about. Now, we start with document ingestions and digitization at source. Means basically, if you look at any particular process, it starts with something, and that's where the data is required, whether it is unstructured, structured, digital, non-digital, whatever it is. That's where the digitization at source, various technologies like chatbots, IoT, etc., is coming into picture, and then the document ingestion, the various documents, how we ingest them. And then comes the next layer of robotic process automation, and finally the analytics and reporting. And on top of this, all these 3 different technologies are powered by the cognitive, and that's how the next wave of RPA or the next wave of automation is moving from simple automation to the intelligent automation. And obviously, the business process management integration with this complete hub is very much required, because that's how you will be in a position to orchestrate the different technology components all together. Now, let's look at document ingestion. Now, if you look at this slide, this particular diagram, and I'll not deep dive into it, but I'll just give you a quick thing. The text in the digital format, where you can actually see the text available, you can easily get the structured text and can move ahead with the RPA. So this is the first part of the easy implementation, what we can really do. But then there are text which is available as part of the image format. Then there are some picture images. This requires some level of image processing. Once you get the processed image, either you apply OCR if it's a type text, or you apply intelligent character recognition, which is purely cognitive based, to identify the handwritten stuff. And then the next problem comes in whether the data is structured or unstructured. Structured is in the sense that we know that where exactly we'll be able to find this particular field and we'll be able to extract this value. But unstructured means some kind of a notes section which you need to really work with. So that's how we need to apply the cognitive and get the real value out of it. Now, if you look at the current form of RPA, the first piece, which is like getting the data in the digital format, and some data which is not even in the digital format, but structured with 1 or 2 simple templates, we can crack it with the RPA. But now the next wave is coming up of RPA Plus. And as part of this particular wave, we can target the bottom portion of this particular diagram. Now, in this case, the first thing is the multiple templates handling capability. Now, what we typically see is that, I'll take a very, very simplistic example of any RPA implementation, invoice processing. I hope all of you must be aware, whoever has implemented RPA, that this is the first process which RPA has actually cracked. Now, if invoices are coming into a single format, yes, easy, single template, but that's not the reality. Every time we always get multiple different templates, and those templates can vary on the ground, and that becomes a problem because RPA works on a business rule basis, and you cannot crack this particular problem. And that's when the cognitive comes into picture. So we are leveraging cognitive technologies to read multiple templates, and I'll give you one demonstration of one particular tool which we are exploring and which we have actually included in our toolkit. Image reading capabilities. Now, simple example is signature verification. Most of the time, whenever we look at any particular process, yes, we can automate all these steps from 1 to 9, but as soon as it comes to the signature verification, sir, we cannot do this because signature is something which my RPA cannot read. Now, this is where the cognitive technologies comes into picture and see that, yes, we can do this signature verification too. Unstructured natural language text reading capabilities. Now, this is another very big example, and this is going to augment the RPA capabilities and taking it to the next level. Because in this case, if we are able to see the notes, so how we are dealing with RPA, like for example, there is a set of data points coming to us. All we need to do is enter into various systems, process this particular data, but there are certain instructions coming as part of notes. Now, until unless someone will decipher those instructions for you, your bot will not be able to understand what exactly needs to be done. And this is something which is an unstructured small piece of text. It's not as big as what Phillips was talking about, but this is a small piece of text. This is where we can apply some cognitive technologies to really understand some meaningful data, some of the data points out of it, and see that RPA bot can really take it forward. So these are three different trends which I was able to at least identify when it comes to the document ingestion part. Now, this is the cognitive OCR example. So this is for the expense receipts. This is a tool from Icarus. This is called Allspark. This is where we are defining the workflow. And as you can see that there are a couple of data items which we have identified, like merchant name, amount, time of transaction. We can configure this particular tool and create that what exactly is the template which we are really looking for. And once we do this and identify the generic type and the subtypes, and now we are ready to really launch and start working with this and start training this model. So see, this is the kind of a receipts which we are getting. And as part of these receipts, we need to extract all these 3 or 4 different fields out of this. And as you can see, this tool can directly do this. At the beginning, it will not be able to do. You need to actually train this with 200, 500 different text receipts or the expense receipts, and then you will be able to see this. Now see that this is actually show bounding boxes. It's provided a boundary on these things, and you can quickly start training this particular thing. Now you must be wondering that this is a very simplistic expense receipts, but believe me, there are 100 people in one particular BPO. Their job is to look at these receipts and enter these 3 fields. And this is exactly the reality of our BPO industry. These kind of use cases are the real use cases where we can invest and can get these cracked. Similarly, the invoices. So now this is on the left-hand side, you can see the invoice. The same results can actually be identified. Now the best part of this is that this is not template-based. Earlier, we were able to identify only one particular template. Tomorrow, the template changes. We are not bothered because our cognitive engine is now trained to extract all this information on its own. And even if it is able to do 60 to 70% of my data, that itself is a huge value to the business. Means I'm talking about 100 FT worth of work now getting done through the 20, 30 people. That itself is a huge value. And that is exactly what our target is whenever we talk about business process automation technologies. Now, this is the signature verification, and as you can see, the original signature. These are a couple of different legitimate signature, forged, and all these things. So this is one of the utility which we are creating it in-house. And this is where the next trend is coming in, that how we can take all these different technologies and start building small utilities. Because Phillips gave an example of pornography. Now, this is a real big problem. Okay, I can't solve this whole world's problem because every day millions of sites are coming in, but I don't want any wrong data to come into my particular space. And I have actually set up a big BPO organization to even look at this particular data, and whenever they find something not right, they actually filter it, because this is very much required. Now, this is the area for us to build a small cognitive utility and plug this into our RPA process so that the complete end-to-end process is taken care of. Now, this is a very, very simplistic example where we are working on this Python. Now, we have created this particular utility. Now, we are working on training this so that all the signatures can be identified. Now, I'll not spend much time on this, but this is a small utility where you can put in the input image, output image, and in this case, the legitimate image is given, and it will just say this, yes, is genuine. And in case if the signature is forged, it will be able to identify and categorize that this signature is forged. Now, this is what I was talking about, that this is where we should really concentrate on identifying those pockets. And this doesn't require a huge lot of technology areas, means understanding. It is something like this. You need to understand the basics. And if you understand the basics, try and implementing it. You know, what was my first problem when I looked at the cognitive technologies? Means everyone was talking about neural network, this, that, everything. But I was not able to really understand this. Means how will I be able to crack this? Means unless I see something, I feel something with me, then I'll not be able to understand. So this is the time to start. Just take any particular example, look at it, create your own algorithm and crack it. And it is easy. It is not really a rocket science. That's the clear message which I wanted to really give. Although industry is hyping it like big time, yes, this requires a lot of knowledge, lots of practice, but at the same time, it's not a rocket science. This is another technology which we can easily crack. It's just that little. Okay. We can definitely look at it. So I think there is some other problem. I'll be happy to take few questions in this particular time. Okay. All right, so I'll come to the questions a little later. Capability to integrate advanced technologies with legacy applications. So now this is another big area which is coming up. Now, as you can see that when we talk about chatbots, IoT, intuitive portals, now these are various new sets of technologies which is coming into picture, and we have a big lot of legacy applications with us. Our IT organizations are saying that we cannot just transfer it just like this, because this requires a huge, massive investment for us to get into the next wave. And this is where RPA technology really comes into picture. Now, I'll just give you an example. I was talking to one of the company yesterday, and they were essentially looking at the chatbots. They said that we have a chatbot, and we have actually created a very cognitive way, but we are not getting any API to extract this information, what to do. It's like I have created a chatbot which can talk in English, which can interact with the users, but as soon as the user says that, can you give me the invoice details, and this is my invoice number, this is stuck because this cannot hatch onto the system, the APIs are not available. And that's when RPA technology really comes into picture, because now the signals from the chatbot is that it will send a ask for a web service will trigger the RPA bot will go and fetch this information from the required thing and required application and give it back. Now this, if I was actually working on the similar use case around 4 years back. That time I was a little bit apprehensive, because as soon as someone talked to me, RPA in real time, boss, this is not going to be possible. It's going to be very, very risky, because now we are talking about the user experience. Someone is sitting on the chatbot, looking for bot to respond, and bot is working on user interface technologies. How much confident we are. But now the situation has changed. The tools have really gone to the next level. The technology has evolved. I think we are quite good to handle these kind of use cases. Virtual workforce as true service. Now, there are 2 pointers here I would like to really talk about. The RPA infrastructure. When we started this journey a decade ago, we were deploying all our bots in the desktop. And the first P1 ticket which I got after implementation was that your bot stops working and nothing is working, and what happened? I actually went to the floor and figured out that the cleaning guy has actually plugged this network cable out. Now, this is how the RPA industry has evolved, because there are a bunch of desktops lying there where bots are really working. Screensavers, we have put in the utility which will continuously move the mouse so that screensavers will not come, otherwise RPA will stop. And then finally, I put a physical security on top of it, creating a cage on top of it so that no one can touch it, and we can only see it out from the outside, yes, the bots are working. So that's how it started. It has now moved to the next level. We are putting bots in the servers. And now the third thing which is coming up is taking it to the cloud. And another angle of this is the licensing model. Most of these RPA products are coming up with their annual fees. And very few are coming up with the perpetual licensing. Now the biggest problem is, can anyone tell me, all of you must be using RPA bots, how much is the utilization you are seeing of your bots? Can anyone give me one figure or something? Okay, in my experience, I have never seen any environment where bots are getting utilized more than 60%. 60% is the max which I have actually seen. It's much, much lower than this, which means that we are keeping our 40% infrastructure which we are paying for it, we are not utilizing it at all. And there is a license which we are paying, there is a infrastructure which we are investing. Now the next wave which is going to come is pay per use. It should be something like this, that if I'm using my bot for 30 minutes, I should be paying only for the 30 minutes, both to the RPA product and also to the infrastructure. And the reason is, again, going back to the chatbots. Now, there are 20 concurrent users at one point in time. You actually need 20 bots at that point in time to work. Then only you will be able to get the right customer experience. But in case, if you're not having this, if you're putting only one particular bot, everything will be in queue, and our customer experience is not that great. And you can't put 10 bots because everything is linked to the previous model. So this is where the next wave is going to come, where most of these products ideally should be moving towards this. And already people have started working on it. They're clubbing the infrastructure and the products together and giving you the service, they pay as per use. Now, this is one area, this is one trend which is coming up in the industry. Intelligent RPA execution. Now, this is something which I have never seen before, but I have tried it myself, so I know that this is definitely going to work. And this is one very important area coming up from the cognitive perspective. Now, imagine a situation that you just put some utility into the BPO agent's machine, and for a month, and this utility is closely observing what this particular agent is doing, and record this particular process, analyze it, and based on that, automatically give you a bot saying that now, after a month, you stop working, my bot will do your job. This is definitely going to be a reality. And I have tried this with a very small use case, and research is happening in this particular area. Because we already have the core built up. We have UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Antworks, hundreds of different tools available. We have the technology, how to integrate, how to interact. All we need to do is the right cognitive algorithm to decipher this particular data and say that what exactly this bot needs to do. Once we do this, everything is going to be automated. So this is another very interesting area which I believe is going to come in next couple of years or maybe couple of months, I don't know. Evolution of true digital platform. Now, as I talked about the business process management, because if we implement two different technologies and put them together, there are lots of new value propositions coming into the market. Now, as a result, that Pega, OpenSpan, Blue Prism, APN, Automation Anywhere, IBM, and UiPath, Oracle, there are multiple kind of synergies found out, and all these acquisitions, mergers, and some kind of contracting happened between these different agencies, and really good value propositions are coming up. And this has all happened in last 1 or maximum 2 years. Now the next thing is cognitive services, cloud services, ERPs. Now these, and list is enormous because this is how RPA tools are now going to be integrated with these different products. Now, let's say for example, if I am using SAP, already I have a lots of built-in available from UiPath, for example, and UiPath is giving it for a very lower cost. Now, as a SAP user, if you want to put these kind of bots on top of it, my first choice would be UiPath. Likewise, you will see that lots of such different areas coming up in future where all these different technologies are going to be tied together so that the different kind of value propositions coming into the market. Extending RPA to other areas, test automation. Someone talked about the test automation. Now again, 4 or 5 years back, someone came to me and said that you are doing lots of things in RPA, and this is something similar to what we are doing in test automation. Can you do this? I said, no, I cannot do this because, yes, the underlying system remains the same, underlying logic remains the same, because here also we are working with the user interface, and some of the RPA products have actually evolved from the test automation products to this particular stage. But this has got lots of other frills attached to it to target a specific market. But at the same time, now this particular technology is advanced to a very high level. If the commercials are working out, and if we are able to create a separate offerings out of these RPA tools, purely from the commercials perspective, yes, this will be a right technology from the test automation perspective. And now the situation, the way I think is, now is the time when these RPA products, like for example, UiPath or Softomotive or Automation Anywhere has already done it, they should actually launch this test automation software because they already have everything, whatever is required to build this. It's just that they need to put a right commercials and some frills on top of it. But at the same time, my understanding at this point in time is if we start using the same tools right now, this may be a overkill in terms of commercials, and we might not be getting the right level of ROIs on top of it. But yes, technology is there. We can easily get the work done. IT application operations. So far, we were focusing only on business process operations, and now there are many companies who are coming up with lots of frameworks to do this, getting into this IT and application operations area. Data migration, master data management. This is another very interesting topic because this is where we are working with lots of legacy applications where the logic is written in the front end. Now, I'll just give you another example. Around a decade ago, I did one project for a large organization, employee data consistency. And you will be surprised that we were having almost 20 applications in front of us, and my name itself was having 100 different details in different systems and lots of disparity of the data, to the extent that my date of birth itself is different in different applications. Now, this is where the real problem of master data management comes in, and the back-end integration is not possible because the most of the logic is written in the front end, and these are legacy applications. That's where RPA can actually come into picture and can solve this problem to a large extent. Mobile applications automation. Very recently, Automation Anywhere has launched their offerings on this, and you will see that more and more solutions coming up in this particular area too. Evolution of bot accelerators. Now you must be observing bot store, bot in a box, bot cart, plenty of such concepts coming up in the market. Because Automation Anywhere has launched, UiPath has launched, Blue Prism might be launching, at least I'm not aware. But there are multiple bot stores coming up now. And their intent is that based on either on the application, business domain, technology, let's identify, let's do something so that this can actually be reused. This, where we'll be able to speeden up our implementation time. And this is very much possible, by the way. Because if we create the right level of frameworks, and if we just plug in only that particular piece which may actually change over a period of time. Very quick example, identity management. One BPO shop or one application operations shop was managing 100 applications for the client. And just the identity management. Although there are good identity management IT solutions, but they were looking for this particular shop to manage this. Now in this case, the only thing is like creating a user, changing the password, some simple stuff, and this has got some certain level of workflows. All this can be automated. But if you have the right framework on this, believe me, you will be in a position to automate each and every application every week. You just need to build some of the components specific to those applications, plug it into this kind of framework, and things will work. So this is how the industry is now looking at RPA and changing the way it was essentially perceived before, and now how they are going to work on it. Last one, powering analytics. Now this is where, as you can see, that RPA, lots of data is moving through RPA in a digital format, which was initially happening either in the applications and it was happening in the brain of the agents who were dealing with it. Now we have lots of statistics available with us. This statistics can direct, and this is again the structured data, which is a kind of really interesting stuff from the analytics perspective, can be taken by the analytics engine, insights can be done, and can be utilized even by RPA. To give you an example, I was working with one of the insurance clients, and their requirement was that how to upsell or cross-sell. Now, which means that when I'm talking to my customer, and if he comes up with this particular request, I should be knowing what are the 10 things which I can actually sell to this customer. Now, I cannot do this until unless I have the right analytics engine available with me, and that analytics engine is providing this data real time to me. And that's where the predictive analytics, real-time analytics, and the RPA, all these three things coming together, and we can actually crack this particular problem. So ultimately, if we look at it, there are plenty of business process operations problems which can directly be solved by RPA and some of the peripheral technologies. If we put our stress on some of these peripheral technologies in a very small way, let's not get into the larger picture and let's not do some really big things. But if we make some small changes, small utilities, things will look completely different, and we can actually hit this particular area to a large extent. So that's what I have for today. I'm available till lunch. If you have any questions, we can take it. And how much time do we have?
We can wrap it up.
Okay. This is my email ID. If you want, you can directly connect with me for any of your doubts, any queries, specifically in the robotic process automation area, and little bit on cognitive. Thank you.